the hell's going on here? All right, we're going to be defining what an actual term means. Let me get my devices going again here. Do we have this going right? Yeah. Give me about a minute. We'll be on in about a minute for those who are watching on YouTube horizontal. All right. Okay, I'm just getting my other platforms going, so that is what's taking time up as usual. Hashtag Iran. Wow. Haven't had to use that as much. Hashtag Iran. Holy shit. Iran is now being in our news. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Are we at war with them? No, that's going to be the discussion because the Trump administration is indicating we're not at war with Iran. And I'd like to hear from you folks. What do you think was going on? If we're not at war, what are we doing? So I'd like to hear from you folks. All right, I think I am able to start the program momentarily here. Let's see if we can go ahead and get this show on the road. Oops, what did I just do there? Shit. What just happened there? I don't know what I just hit. I'm trying to... What did I say? What up, Tim? Good. Cool day, Tot, says Brown Eyes. Wow. I don't know about all that, man. I was wrong about all of this. I'd like to know what you, Big Cuzzo, what were you wrong about? Feel free to state that. I'm very curious to know that now. What were you wrong about? Certainly let me know that in the comments. I'm trying to get my last device up and running, but something's acting weird here. Okay, let's try and do this one more time again. I'm going to be asking, you hear about, well, I'm going to save it for the live stream. Give me a second. Because I got a question I want to ask, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on it. You heard the Democrats always being ridiculed for not being able to answer what the hell a woman is. Well, that's going to play into today's show the minute I get this shit up and running here. I had to reset this here, so let's see here. Iran is a hashtag. Well, in Israel is a hashtag. And we'll just go with those two. And of course, obviously, Trump is going to forever be a hashtag, probably for the rest of our damn lives. Okay, I think I got everything going here. All right. No, it's not made for kids. We have to put that in there. Okay. I think we did it right here. All right. We good? All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and start going live, and let me make sure I got it out. Everything is here set, not sub only. Sub only chat off. You turned off. All right, we're going live in 3, 2, 1. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal, depending on who you ask. Some people like, why you ugly ass using the term like handsome liberal? Anyway, we're going to be talking about one simple question today. We generally have a host of topics Today is a little bit different. I got one predominant topic, as you see on the monitor behind me. You often hear folks, remember the 2024 campaign? Folks were constantly suggesting that the liberals did not know what a woman is. What is a woman? You heard that all the time. Well, I'm going to ask, is a war? What is a war? Because the right is suggesting that somehow, some way, we currently are not at war. So I want to get from you folks, what is a definitive example of what is a war? How are we not at one when both sides have now traded destructive ordinance between each other? So I want to hear from you folks, how are we not at war? And what would be the difference of actually being in a war? Remember, the Democrats don't know what a woman is. Is it possible the Republicans simply do not know what a war is? Because Trump, I think J.D. Vance said we're not at war, we're at war with the nuclear program of Iraq. So I'll ask you folks right off the bat, if another nation violated United States airspace and bombed a variety of targets all over this great nation, would we not consider that an act of war? If someone came to this country and bombed targets all over our country and left, would we not consider that an act of war? Because I'm trying to figure out how we are able to do it to Iran and somehow be told it's not an act of war. Now, you may support what Trump has done. A lot of people do. There's nothing wrong with that. If you support what he did, you support what he did. But the idea that it's not an act of war is what we're going to be questioning. So I want to hear from you folks. I guess the simple question is exactly what you see. What the hell is war? If what we're involved in is not a war, then what exactly is war? And in addition to that, all of this is going to be in regards to the same topic. If we're not at war, any idea why Trump is demanding an unconditional surrender from Iran and even flirting with regime change? Have you ever used these terms or heard these terms used between nations that were not at war? You're demanding an unconditional surrender from Iran, but we're not at war with them. You're talking about regime change, but that's not going to be done via war. How does that make sense? Somebody explain it to me. Last but not least, this one is really important. The whole purpose of bombing Iran was to stop them from obtaining a nuclear weapon. You heard Benjamin Netanyahu and even President Trump indicating that they were only a short period of time away from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Here's what's floating around in the news. They're suggesting that the nation of Iran had 800 pounds of uranium that they were trying to enrich to make it weapons grade. Now, we might have bombed the hell out of Iran, but the question we're going to be posing is, where is the uranium? Are we certain that the uranium has been destroyed? Because we only bombed the country from the air. Let me make sure I turn on my Wi-Fi here. We bombed the country from the air, but they haven't explained what happened to the uranium. Could this end up being like the Iraq War, where there were weapons of mass destruction and they were ultimately never found? 800 pounds of uranium was in the hands of the Iranians. Okay, we bombed the country, we used busters and all of this stuff. But where is the uranium at? Where is the uranium that was being in the process of being enriched? Are we able to just assume that all of the bombs destroyed all of that? Is that how uranium works? I don't believe you can just do that. I mean, we don't want the country to turn glowing yellow, do we? So I want to ask you folks that. I want to ask you folks that as well. 800 pounds of uranium that they could have been using from everything from big heavy-duty nuclear weapons all the way down to suitcase bombs. All of that was in one place. We all knew where every piece of that was at. We got rid of all of that. Do you feel confident that the American government, after suggesting that they had 800 pounds of uranium, has gotten rid of all of that? If not, then where the hell is it? Similar to suggesting Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and never showing any evidence of that at all. So I do want to hear from you folks. Right off the bat, can somebody define what a war is? So looking in the comments, LOL Tim, where is all the fraud money? Where's the money? Show me the money. You're not going to see the money because the money was never meant to go in your hands. All of the waste, fraud, and abuse they found, none of it was ever intended to go to you. So even if they are actually finding waste, fraud, and abuse, you're never going to see any of it. Continue. If you think the building where the uranium is, if you hit the building where the uranium is, you don't know what an explosion this would be. So you're suggesting that if they actually struck the building where the uranium was located, it would create some type of secondary explosion or something of that nature? I'm not a scientist, so I want to hear from you folks. I always make it clear I'm not a know-it-all, so I would love to hear from you folks. So we're going to go ahead and start taking calls. You know how the program is ran. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone. We are MAGA friendly, been MAGA friendly since day one, always will be. But just like when the right always asks the liberals, what is the definition of a woman? I want to know what is the definition of a war, because the right seems to be quite hesitant in giving a clear-cut definition of what a war is. How can we be involved in all of this with Iran and not be at war? Uranium is used for nuclear reactors. If they find uranium, it should be there. Well, are we going to put anybody on the ground to find the uranium at all? Going straight to the box, we'll start it out with the Blue. Good evening, or welcome to the program, the Blue. Starting out with that question right off the bat, are we at war? Are we actually at war? Or is it like J.D. Vance said, we're just at war with the nuclear program? The Blue, good evening, what say you?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. So, do you think we're at war?
I mean, yeah. I don't know how you could question that.
Well, because the Trump administration is saying otherwise.
Oh, I know, and it's insane. This is almost exactly like what happened with Iraq.
Explain.
So with Iraq, I think we made military strikes first, and then we used an excuse. For some reason, we had to be over there, just be over there, and then 9/11 happened.
So when you say we had to be over there, are you suggesting that in this case we could end up with boots on the ground as well?
Absolutely. And even the Trump administration isn't denying that.
Wow. But the man ran on no new wars.
Yeah. I mean, he runs on a whole lot of fairy tales, doesn't he?
I'm just asking. So, let me ask it to you this way, because many folks suggest that MAGA is going to defend Trump no matter what. Do you think MAGA will still ride with him if we ended up with boots on the ground in Iran?
I mean, that's a tough one. Honestly, war definitely changes people's minds. I know that just the topic alone has changed the minds of some prominent members of MAGA, podcasters and such.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely a possibility, but will it change the vast majority of their minds? I don't think so. Because I've also seen a lot of people that are somehow happy that we're going to war. Never understand. There's comment sections flooded with people that are like, oh, fuck yeah, America.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of America fuck yeah videos as well. But, I mean, I guess because he's saying we're not currently at war, though. Any idea? I mean, we've seen what has happened so far. I got a lot of MAGA telling me the same thing, that this is not a war. Any idea why they see it so differently than, say, you or even me?
Well, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same analogy going back to before. It's like punching someone in the face and saying we're not in a fight.
Well, that is kind of what's happening. You know, Trump is demanding an unconditional surrender, and I'm thinking, like, when have you ever heard somebody demand a surrender from someone when you're not in a war?
Yeah. I mean, if you dig back, George Bush said the same thing. He said the same thing, and then we had an attack on domestic soil. And if you remember me telling you the video that Anonymous put out that said in 14 days there would be an attack on domestic soil, we're about 7 days into that. So we'll see where that goes.
Whoa. You said in 14 days, who predicted there would be an attack on American soil?
The hacker group, Anonymous.
Wow. What do you mean?
They
Like you
claimed
mean
that they
you?
had information, intel that there would be an attack on domestic soil to justify a full scale attack on Iran.
You mean like a terrorist attack or something of that nature?
Yeah, that's what they were claiming, and it really seems like we're headed in that direction because you know, the politicians and news stations are warning that there's sleeper cells.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
almost like they're starting to try to prepare us for the fact that there might be a terror attack.
well, when you think about how many folks are already pissed off with what's going on with Israel in Gaza, and now Israel is part of the bombing of Iran, and then now America's involved in it. I mean, if we can find radicalized MAGA that'll take out a couple politicians in Minnesota, we can find some radicalized Muslims in this country. So, I mean, 7 days is a very short period of time, but I don't think it would be a big surprise if somebody was radicalized and acted on behalf of what we're doing in Iran in the future. Just 7 days seems really fucking quick.
Well, I mean, it was 14 days to begin with, and just the timing is weird because they put that video out, and then what? 6 days later? No. 5 days later. Did it happen yesterday or a couple days ago? So hard.
Saturday, day before yesterday.
Okay, yeah. So that happened before. I mean, after. Sorry, they had put out.
I don't know. I mean, but what about the notion that, whoa, Archangel, thank you. Appreciate that. That was very nice. Thank you, Archangel. What about the notion that they are developing nukes? They're talking about death to America. What Trump did needed to be done. Do you see any actual need, urgency to stop their nuclear program like a hell of a lot of Trump supporters and politicians are saying that this needed to be done?
I mean, did it need to be done in Iraq? In hindsight,
No.
I mean, I really think it's the same thing.
So you think
I don't.
you believe that what Trump did in Iran is similar to what George W. Bush did, suggesting that they got weapons and we need to stop them right now. Let's go. You believe Trump jumped the gun?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what it seems like? I mean, it really seems like it's the same thing. We're headed down the same. Other than the fact that we haven't had this domestic attack on soil yet, like I said, this is what they claim. It could happen, it could not. Who knows? But other than that, it's pretty much page by page the same.
What about the whole
It's moving quicker. It's moving a lot quicker.
Yeah, but what about the idea that Iran was saying death to America and they would have been a irresponsible country owning nuclear weapons and they had to be stopped? I mean, would you have been okay if they had have gotten nuclear weapons?
I think the main reason they say death to America these days is because we have our nose so far up their ass.
Yeah.
I'm not saying necessarily that I am comfortable with them having nukes, but also I don't think we should be the fucking world police.
Yeah. Well, Trump campaigned on getting us out of being in a position of world's police. When he campaigned, he led us to believe that would, no more endless wars, forever wars. I think at his inauguration, he stated that he was going to judge the success of his administration on how many wars he ended. So he did campaign on just the opposite of some of this stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, part of me, it surprised me that there's been so much of his side of MAGA speaking out against him. I mean, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene speak out against him. Prominent member.
But will they maintain that stance? I mean,
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It'll be political blackmail, and then they'll go back to their same position.
So
Trump's arse.
So where does this go down the road? I mean, we bombed Iran, and we just go back to normal, and it is what it is. I mean, do you see any retaliation from Iran that amounts to anything? So far, they launched a few. I think they launched about 19 missiles. Doesn't appear as if any major damage or casualties were sustained. Is that the end of it?
No, I actually heard, and you might want to look for this headline, but I heard earlier that they are currently trying to bomb U.S. bases over there.
Yeah, they bombed an area in Qatar or Qatar, however it's pronounced.
Oh, is that's
Yeah, most of that was shot down. They tried to bomb a base in Iraq. I think that was stopped, and that's been kind of it.
I can't really say, but I feel like any type of situation like this would be pretty hard to back out of, especially when you have a manic leader.
What makes you say he's manic in what way?
In the way of we could wake up tomorrow and he changes his mind and says we're gonna, put boots on the ground and blow everyone up because nobody knows what the hell this guy's gonna do.
So you see Trump as literally like a dictator that is unstable.
Yeah, I mean he reminds me a lot of Kim Jong Un in character. In character. Other than the fact that Kim Jong Un can be much more blatant about it because he's pretty much treated like a king, no matter. I mean, he has to. So I do think they are two children playing with toys, and those toys happen to be able to destroy most of the world.
Wow. Let me ask you this one before I move it on. Because obviously a lot of this began with Netanyahu. Many would suggest that the war, the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq also began with Benjamin Netanyahu yelling that they were about to have weapons. What is your opinion of Netanyahu?
Negative, for sure. It's the regime changes. I don't know if you've had anyone talk about that yet.
We're about to. Yeah, we're going to discuss that.
Yeah, the U.S. and Israel for the longest time have been involved. I mean, since like the 1950s, have been involved in setting up regime changes. And that's what I was saying earlier. We have our nose so far up their ass. Yeah. Why wouldn't they hate us?
So you don't see Iran as a loose cannon, a crazy terrorist nation. You see them as someone that has a legitimate reason to not like us because we're in their business.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not one to say that they're not somewhat crazy too. I mean, obviously they're another war country, but I really think that the main reason they hate us is because we've been fucking with them for over 50 years.
Last question. Do you believe America will be better off or worse off due to this bombing?
Really, that depends on if it becomes a long-term conflict. If it does, yeah, it's going to cost us financially, for sure.
All right.
So it's going to cost us financially in multiple ways. I mean, obviously the taxes,
Well, you know we do make money off of war though. We dropped I don't know how many bunker buster bombs. We got to replace those. So somebody, that's creating jobs for. I mean, every piece of ordnance we use, they have to replace it. So there's a budget there. I mean, somebody's going to have to rebuild all of that stuff.
Oh, I mean, let's be honest. It's the 1% that's going to make that money.
Right. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, we'll make pennies. We'll be the peons, but they're the ones that profit off the war.
I don't disagree with you at all. It's not going to be most of us, but this country does indeed profit from war. The price of energy might be interesting after this, though. I mean, you think it could lead to? I mean, because right now the price of gas under Trump is not that bad. Can we keep it that way?
Like I said, it depends on if this conflict continues and turns into a full-scale war. I mean, that's what I would call it right now. I would call it a conflict. I don't know if I would call it a war, so to speak, but it could very quickly evolve into that. And I think to deny that we're in any sort of conflict or war is just irresponsible.
I don't know. When you say conflict, like that's one of the questions we asked, at the beginning of the show is what is a war? I don't know. When you got both nations lobbing missiles and stuff back at each other, what's the difference between a conflict versus a war?
Well, Iran and Israel are in a war. We just became part of a conflict. and it's our decision now whether we plunge in head first. So we you know we can't really just back out either, because there's implications of that too. This is why the position of president is so important. The president should be smarter than me. I shouldn't feel like he's dumber than me.
You wait. You feel like Trump is dumber than you?
I'm not even necessarily saying just me per se, but I'm saying as Americans, we should feel like this person has a moral high ground. They're smarter than me. They know what they're doing. I'm comfortable with them running that position. But Trump is dumber than the vast majority of Americans.
Damn.
I think that's pretty safe to say. I mean,
I don't know.
I'm sure Dencal or some of these guys that have a little more information on this can tell you how terrible his grades were and all this stuff. I can't give you exact numbers. But I mean, the only reason he passed college is because he had a shitload of money, paid his way through.
Money does help, but I don't know if I would say that Trump is dumber than the average American.
His own ex-surrogate said that the guy can't read.
I don't. You think Trump can? I mean, the guy who sends out all of the tweets and he's on social media constantly. You think he can't read his own? I mean, he clearly can read.
What they're saying is he has a hard time reading out loud. He can't read teleprompters, so he has to go off the cuff.
I don't know.
That's according to members of his party from the last administration that have kind of gone rogue on it.
I don't know if I buy that. Listen, I got my own criticisms of Trump, but I damn sure think the guy can read. That might be a bit much. I got to move it on, D Blue, but that might be a bit much. Thanks for coming through.
Jon Stewart, 2028.
All right, Jon Stewart. Good luck with that. All right, moving on. My last caller is a big fan of the comedian Jon Stewart running for office. Jon Stewart has a lot of fans. I don't know, running for national office. You think Jon Stewart could pull it off? I mean, in my opinion, whoever's going to run, they probably, toward the end of this year, needs to start gaining in popularity. But a lot of people already know who Jon Stewart is. So, I don't know. Looking at the comments real quick, we are asking the question, what is a war? In the tradition of the liberals, being asked, can you define what a woman is? And the liberals not having a good, clear-cut answer to define what a woman is. What is a war? Because I'm hearing some crazy definitions from folks on the right, as if they're having a difficult time describing what a war is. We're going to talk about that. Tim, do your research, says Jermaine. Well, the problem with doing research, I could do all the research you might suggest, but if I don't do the research from the sources you want me to, you're not going to agree with any of them. What do you think I would come back with if I did the research on who won the 2020 election? Would you agree with that? So it doesn't matter if doing research. If you don't agree with where I'm getting the information from, I can do research until I turn blue in the face. You're still going to say the research is wrong. We are not at war, says Diana Evans. Well, that's the point. What is the definition of a damn war? I want to know, if we're not at war right now, well, we sent dozens of aircraft to bomb points all over Iran. Tomahawks were shot into that country from submarines. What is a war? If that's not a war, what? Let me ask it to you this way. By way of yes or no in the comments, type yes or no to this. If someone did to us what we did to Iran on Saturday, would we consider that an act of war? If someone came to this country and bombed targets all over America, shot Tomahawk missiles from off the coastline via submarine, and had as many as several dozen aircraft flying over this country bombing stuff, by way of yes or no in the comments, would America consider that as an act of war? Just want to ask you that, because we're saying that when we did it to somebody else, it's not an act of war. What if somebody did it to us? Would we consider it as an act of war? Yes or no in the comments. Real quick, looking in the comments, I don't see many folks saying no. Pete says it's a peaceful protest. Oh my God. That's hilarious, Pete. That is definitely hilarious. Now, obviously, I'll go back to the box, but it's almost similar. If you ever seen the movie, I can't think of the name of the movie now, with Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson, A Time to Kill, where at the end of the movie, Matthew McConaughey playing the lawyer for Samuel L. Jackson says, "Close your eyes and now imagine the victim is white," and it changed the mindset of the jury. Close your eyes and now imagine America's getting bombed. For those who suggest it's not a war, close your eyes and now imagine that those bunker buster bombs are going into points throughout America. That's what I'm asking. Do you think we would view it as an act of war? All right, looking in the comments, somebody said, "I love that movie." Good movie. And we have the director of defense, who were the reporter. Do you think he can handle this? What do you mean by that, Archangel? I'll go back to the box. Tap the screen, folks. Get the likes on up to about 20,000. We can certainly make that happen with well over 300 of you in here. Going back to the box, how would we view this if it happened to us? Matt Meinhardt. Good evening, Matt. Welcome to the program. I'll start off by asking you, are we at war, Matt? Good evening.
No.
No.
Plain and simply no.
Sure. What is going on right now?
Iran's messing around, and now they're learning that their actions do have, in fact, have consequences.
How did give me your explanation of how Iran was quote unquote messing around?
Iran for years has been warned by both parties, whether neither man, whatever president was, all the way going back to Clinton,
True.
that if you continue to sponsor T groups, you continue to do the enrich uranium to points that is not necessarily used for civilian purposes, but military purposes, you will one day find out. And you know what? It's the train stopped here. Trump just said, you know what? I'm done with this, and I'm going to put a stop to it. And here's the funny part. There are so many Democrats that actually agree with him that this needed to happen. That this was a ticking time bomb, and it just happened to go off now. And you know what? Iran is paying the consequences.
You're right. A lot of Democrats do agree with what Trump did, but there's also a lot of Republicans that disagree with what he did. So there is some support and there is some dissension on both sides. But what I want to ask you is, why have we been claiming for probably 20 straight years? Because you mentioned going back to the Clinton era. We also been claiming damn near since the Clinton era that they're only a few months, if not weeks, away from getting a nuclear bomb. We've been saying that for 20 straight years. Are you certain that our information is accurate?
You know, I think timelines are subjective. I don't agree that that every time someone says, I feel like that's just political rhetoric at that point, saying, oh, they're this close, they're this close. No one exactly knows how close they were, but the fact is that they were due. At one point, they openly admitted that they have a right to be a nuclear-armed nation.
20 years?
When the rest of the UN has said that they do not have that right.
Yeah, but if we can show, and I mean, there's plenty of videos to show Obama, Bush going, folks going all the way back, like I said, as much as 20 years ago, saying that they are within weeks, if not months, from developing a nuclear weapon. I'm asking you, at what point does that become something to be concerned about, that our intelligence is telling us that these folks are only months away from getting something that 20 years later they still don't have, and we're using that currently as a reason for why we attacked them?
It's an interesting question. I would like to personally see what the intelligence reports that say that they were that close, or like no one honestly knows how close they were. I will be the first person to say it. But
so if we attacked them because they were developing a nuclear bomb, and you're admitting no one really knew how close they were, doesn't this kind of hurt the credibility of the attack?
Nope. Because they were still working. It doesn't matter how close they were still working toward one. The premise is still there. That is, of all nations in the world, Iran is one of the handful of nations that have no right to that kind of power.
Based on whose assertion?
The United Nations has said that a nuclear-armed Iran is a threat to the security of the free world. The United Nations said that.
Then
that's why they were required to allow United Nations inspectors to make sure that's not what they were doing. And then they stopped letting those inspectors in.
But what about Tulsi Gabbard here suggesting that they do not? I'll play this. I want you to hear it if you haven't heard it already. And for folks who have heard it or have not heard it, I want to play this to you. And I want to get your opinion on it. This is Trump's director of intelligence Tulsi Gabbard.
Iran's cyber operations and capabilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC
Now, we talked about going back as far as 20 years, talking about they're only a week or a few months away from getting one. This is in March. As of March of this year, Trump's director of intelligence is still saying that they're not trying to get a nuclear weapon. What is she getting wrong?
Again, at the end of the day, all we can do is theorize. Neither you nor me have seen the reports, so I mean, she is an expert in her field, supposedly. So I kind of have to take what she says as well. Like, I've taken into consideration. I don't have to necessarily agree with it. But
why would you not agree with it? She's the head. We talking about the CIA, the NSA, the FBI. She is the head of the intelligence agencies. Why would you? I mean, there's nothing above her really in terms of our country's intelligence. Why would you not agree with her?
Because there's other people who are just as qualified as her, apparently, that have said the same thing, have said opposing things.
Who has more access to the intelligence agencies in this country than the head of them? Who else are you talking about?
I mean, you got a point.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, because like I just mentioned to you before, we've been saying for decades, at least almost 20 years now, that they're about to get a nuclear bomb. And then as of March, you got the head of intelligence saying, no, that's not true. So when we go and then bomb them like we did on Saturday, only a couple months after our intelligence agencies are saying they don't have anything, do you feel confident that we have the right information and the right reason to bomb them? Because the whole notion was we were stopping them from getting a nuclear weapon. And here our intelligence head is saying they're not even trying to develop one.
I mean, I personally would still like to see where her supposed, like, she says they don't have it, they weren't trying to. I would like to see that then. I would like to see the facts that they are not trying, they don't have it, they're not, well, I don't believe they have it, that they weren't trying to build it.
That's a fair point. Wouldn't it have been more logical, though, to have this stuff hashed out before we bomb them? Because now, if there is evidence, if she can produce solid evidence that backs up why she said this, do you really think the Trump administration would let that become public?
Honestly, I don't know. I would like to say yes, because wait,
hold on. You think that if she could produce proof as to why she said they were not developing a nuclear weapon, if she could produce ample proof of that, you think it's possible the Trump administration would let that become public information, and it would, because obviously it would mean that he bombed them for the wrong reason, because he's making it clear the whole goal was because they were trying to develop nuclear weapons. If she could prove that they weren't, you think the Trump administration might let that become public?
I mean, if she took it before the Senate and the Senate, then the Trump administration wouldn't be able to say shit.
She would be fired before she ever made it.
She would most definitely be fired.
Yeah.
The Senate, I'm almost certain the Senate would still hear her out.
Yeah, if they allowed her to even speak, I don't know if they would even allow her to speak though.
So.
Yeah. So, but I guess I'll ask this thing. Considering the fact that we did spend millions of dollars bombing Iran under the guise they were about to become a nuclear nation, and we do have the director of intelligence here saying otherwise, do you believe Trump should be required to prove what he said was accurate with her out there? Should he be required to prove what he's saying to the American people? Or should we just take his word that his director of intelligence don't know what the hell she's talking about, and he does?
I'm a little torn, because I know he's probably getting his reports from the Joint Chiefs, etc. And then it becomes who's more qualified than who? Is it her, or is it the heads of the military? Like,
What is she? Is she a DEI or something? If she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, why is she still employed?
Honestly, I don't know why half the pilot people in Washington are employed at this point. To be fair,
We went to, but we went. I get your point, Matt. But we went to war based on this information. Conflict. Okay, not at war. Okay, not at war if you want to put it that way. But we literally dropped a host of bombs on a sovereign nation because of this.
I mean, we've done a lot more than that in many different administrations to other countries. Honestly, kind of par for the course for us.
Let me ask you this. Now you lean politically right or left?
I'm a right-leaning centrist. I'm more of a fiscal conservative than I am a, conservative.
You voted for Trump, right?
I kind of just abstained from this vote. I was like, I'm not voting.
You didn't vote in 2024.
No, but I was leaning more toward Trump this year.
What about 2020?
I voted for Trump then.
2016.
Yes.
Okay. So you voted for Trump 2016 and 2020, but you didn't vote at all. Let me ask you this. If this whole scenario that's taking place was taking place under the Biden administration, would you have a different view on it? I mean, one person in the administration is saying they got weapons. The head of intelligence is saying they don't, but yet Biden orders a military strike on the nation of Iran.
Okay.
Would your opinion change on this at all?
No, not really. I don't have any. It has nothing to do with the president to me. Honestly, Iran has always been a problematic nation, and honestly, I feel that they need to suffer the consequences of their actions.
But what are their actions other than talking shit? I mean, we do know they've backed, as you pointed out, they have backed some terror groups. But I guess I would have to ask you, you do realize we do that too, right? We just don't call it backing terror groups.
Well, the thing is, the difference is their government openly admits that they do it. So, and when they're told by the United Nations, a body which they are a member of, by the way, to stop doing that, they tell the United Nations to go F itself. Here's the thing. Would you also say that Iran has technically declared war on the United States for funding and providing arms to, say, the Houthi rebels, who have fired missiles at U.S. ships?
I hear your point.
That's a declaration of war then.
No, well, first of all, even if I think there's a lot more to add into what you're saying, but just going on what you're saying at face value, that would be what is referred to as a proxy war. You're saying that the Iranians armed the Houthis or armed Hamas, and then they're going at the U.S. interests. That's very similar to America arming the Ukrainians, and then they're fighting Russia. We're not at war with Russia. It's a proxy war. So, go ahead.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, so at best it would be a proxy war, but I think what we're missing out on, this is where I always refer to it as a case of our shit don't stink. We look at nations that arm Hamas or that arm the Houthis or some of these other groups and say that they're backing terror. We don't look at why these folks are committing these acts. I mean, fact is, many folks have been suggesting for decades that what Israel has been doing to the Palestinians is nothing short of oppression, that they had an outdoor prison in Gaza. We only start with October 7th. We don't go back to the fact these folks have been complaining about their land being taken, they're being settled on, and they can't even so much as travel without getting the permission of the Israelis. Nobody ever took into account what they were screaming about. We only took into account when they decided to act against the Israelis. So it looks like they're backing groups that are committing acts of terror because we're not listening to what they're screaming about.
I feel like we can't really get into the Israelis and what's going on there because it's way too involved and it has little to nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Well, wait a minute. When you're saying that the Iranians back terror as a reason to go in,
I'm talking about specifically Gaza. I'm talking specifically about Israel Hamas.
Hear me out. When you're saying that Israel have been acting out, and you're saying one of the things that they do is back terror, which is the reason you're supporting Trump going in there.
Well, I thought Iran does that.
I mean, Iran, not Israel. Right. My fault. When you're saying that Iran is backing terror, and you're saying that that's the reason why you're supporting what Trump did, they're not backing terror groups that's harming Americans. They're backing terror groups that are harming the Israelis. So Israel is obviously involved in it.
Terror groups, regardless of who they're harming. I have zero respect for any person who joins a group like this. I serve in the Navy. I can tell you right now, if you join a group and your whole thing is, I'm going to attack innocent civilians as well as military targets, I'm sorry, you're a piece of shit.
Okay.
And the only thing you deserve is a 45 to the back of the head.
Then you would literally have taken out the 43rd president, George W. Bush, because up to as many as 1 million people died in the Middle East for the Iraq War. That was completely unnecessary. Is there anybody that has committed a bigger act of terror than that?
Question. I have to specify. By the Iraq War, are you talking about the Persian Gulf War or our second invasion of Iraq?
I'm talking about the second invasion that was supposedly over weapons of mass destruction, which we never found. As many as 1 million people died in that.
Okay, so that was after we took down Saddam Hussein, you're saying?
Yeah, the 20 years.
I'm just trying to make sure you what part of the Iraq invasion we're talking about.
I'm talking about the one that started in 2003. I'm not talking about Desert Shield, Desert Storm. That was legitimate. That's the one where a lot of countries, NATO and everybody was on board because they had invaded Kuwait. That was a legitimate conflict.
It wasn't the only thing they did.
Okay. But we're talking about in 2003, the one that now the world looks back on as an unnecessary, unneeded war. Talking about that one.
Mm-hmm.
How is that not an act of terror?
Because on I don't like to say it because on a technicality, there was a classification of WMD. There's three classifications of WMD: biological, chemical, nuclear. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, where are they at?
Well, the thing is, we did, during the second invasion, we did secure additional stockpiles of Iraq's sarin gas stores.
Can I ask you a question? Let me ask. Yeah, of course I can answer. Let me ask you this question. Why is it that the nation that has the most weapons of mass destruction on the planet is always telling everybody else they can't have any? The nation that is the only nation that has actually used an atomic weapon, telling everybody else they can't have it. Can you explain that to me?
You know, I see where you're coming from. And I think, honestly,
it's hilarious.
In my perfect scenario, there are only 3 countries should have that kind of an arsenal.
Why? Why only 3 countries?
Well, I'm specifying 3 countries because I'm pretty as far as I'm going to say I hope. These are the only 3 countries who would actually not use them after, the initial use of them during World War II.
How do you know that? We had
I did say hope.
I don't even know why you would hope that. I will tell you this. You had Obama come in here, make some kind of deal with Iran. Trump came in and said it was a dumbass deal and canceled it, which the reason I'm bringing that up is shows that we can have a radically different idea of leadership from one president to the next. Why would you assume all of the things that this country has been involved in, from oppression and all of it, why would we assume that it can't ever happen in America where we wouldn't use something like that?
I don't think we'd ever use them again unless they were already used first, because we understand the impact of what happened after we used them the first time.
So we used it the first time. We realized
the first time,
and in Nagasaki, Hiroshima. Yeah, I get it.
So after that we saw the repercussions of what happened after we used them, and I don't think we'd use them again unless someone else fired first.
Think about what you're saying there, Matt. We used the weapon in Nagasaki. We used another one in Hiroshima. We realized the damage that it could do, and then we spent the next 70 years developing as many as 2,000 of them. I mean, if we knew it was going to be dangerous, we wouldn't keep making them.
We were competing with our adversary, the Soviets. And the Soviets have more.
So,
I'm not talking back then. No country was. I don't feel any country would have been more responsible. But I'm talking about in the modern day.
we're still making them. We still have them. We're not trying to get rid of them.
I know we do. I know we do. That submarine that fired those tomahawks at Iran, I'm pretty sure they probably have a few of those on board.
All right. And I see in the comments somebody saying we have as many as 5,500 nuclear weapons in this country. Yeah, I gotta vehemently.
Arsenal is public.
Yeah, I gotta vehemently disagree with you in regards to your suggestion that we use them so we know what damage they can be do. I mean, we not only use one and saw the damage it could do, we then used another one 3 days later, and then we started developing bigger, more powerful ones and actually testing them out in the middle of the desert. We fully intended to possibly use another one in the future, and we've been making them ever since. I don't think anything about our actions show that we won't use one if we deem it necessary.
By that logic, why didn't we use one in Vietnam?
Why didn't we use a nuclear weapon? That's a decent question.
Why didn't we use it? Why didn't we use one in Korea?
I'll tell you right off the bat, we didn't use. I'm answering it.
One on Baghdad?
Because in none of those countries, unlike Hitler or unlike Hirohito in Japan, none of those countries were really threatening American lives. I mean, if we leave, hold on. If we leave, you mentioned Vietnam. Hold on, hang on, I'll let you finish. But you mentioned Vietnam, you mentioned Korea in these countries and said, why didn't we use it? Fact is, unlike with Germany and Japan, all we had to do was leave Vietnam or leave Korea, and no American is in danger. We're only in danger because we're there. Go ahead, I'll give you the last word.
We didn't leave Korea. We stayed.
Right, and that's the only reason why we're in danger to this day, is we're over there.
Well, I mean, so then you're saying you're okay with the destruction of another group by like the South Koreans. You're okay with that? I'm
saying you can't suggest that American lives are in danger when you're literally putting yourself in the danger zone. I mean, that's whatever happened to that being their problem. We don't have to be involved in every war, do we?
You know, back then I feel like we did feel like we had to be involved in every war. Now, but looking back, we probably should be more isolation and keep to ourselves a bit more.
Well, damn it, that's what Trump ran on, and then he lied when he got in office. He ran on doing that.
He did not hold up his promise. I agree.
Right.
But one thing I wanted to correct you on, just so you for future reference, Hirohito was the emperor. The emperor was proven later to have no real. He was anti-war. Yuza Tojo. He was their foreign minister who propagated the war.
All right, fair enough. Appreciate you coming through, Matt. Thank you. My door's always open to you, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, you too.
All right, moving on with the program. By the way, tap the screen. Get us on up to about 30,000. We can make that happen. We don't block, ban, or censor. That is how this program is ran. Ignorant. I will debate you on whatever foreign policy problem we have. I was military intel, Army, and so many lies in the White House right now. Come on over to the, if you have Instagram or you have TikTok, that's where you're able to come up live, and we'll bring you up. We're live on Instagram. We're live on TikTok, The Handsome Liberal, same on YouTube, but YouTube doesn't allow you to bring people up, so this is where we're at. By the way, tap the screen, get the likes on up to about 30,000. You know how the program is ran. We don't block, ban, or censor any damn body. You can be critical of anyone on the program, including the host. We are MAGA friendly, been that way since day one, always will be. We go left of Bernie Sanders to having dinner with Q. If you enjoy this type of program, and I'm going to ask you to take the time out right now to follow the program if you're watching on Instagram or TikTok. Give your boy a sub if you're watching on YouTube. The Handsome Liberal is the name on YouTube, Jackson, or on any of the platforms. The Handsome Liberal. Instagram, Clapper, TikTok, any of the same name. He's not a robot. Don't be brainwashed with Musk, for real. Thank you, Liberal. Appreciate that. Look in the comments, though. Tim, turn on the ceasefire agreement. I'm looking at it on News Nation right behind me. They have a ticker that says Trump, Israel, and Iran agreed to ceasefire. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I don't know if Israel wants a ceasefire. Maybe the Trump administration does, but I don't. I think Netanyahu sees Trump as an opportunity to get revenge on every enemy that Israel's ever had. I'm speculating here. Hopefully, I'm wrong, but in my opinion, I believe Israel would love to just completely obliterate Iran up to and including regime change. Trump gave Israel the chance to finally get the get back that they've always been wanting. So Trump might be okay with a little bit of ceasefire, but I think Netanyahu would be totally happy with this going out, with America participating in turning Israel, or better, in turning Iran to a similar fashion as Gaza is right now. Just fucking rubble. I think the nation of Israel would love that because, make no mistake about it, whatever happens with Iran, with the same people in power, obviously the citizenry in Iran do not like Israel. They don't like America either, but they really do not like Israel. And as they get older and, once the Ayatollah Khomeini or whatever passes away, he's an older guy. The next generation is not going to like Israel either. They will be at odds with Iran for the rest of our natural lives. They will be at odds with them. So the only way to stop that is to wipe them off the map. I think that Netanyahu would like to see that. Looking in the comments, though, he has a gold throne, but he shits in his pants. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about our president. We took out their nuclear. Israel can rest easy. I don't know about that, Johnny 11. I don't know if that's absolutely true. Now, before I go to the next caller, I did write in the notes, they're claiming that the Iranians had as much as 800 pounds of enriched or somewhat enriched uranium that they were trying to make into weapons grade. Just like with the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, if they don't produce that 800 pounds of uranium, do you just automatically assume it was 100% destroyed? Is that what, I don't know how much of that it would take to make, let's say a briefcase bomb or some smaller weapons, but do you just assume without seeing any evidence that all of that was destroyed? Let me know in the comments. All right, looking in, before we go to the next viewer, no more spins, thank Trump. I think you're going to thank Trump no matter what. I think if Trump had said, what's going on with the Iranians and the Israelis is not our war. We got to focus on America first. You would have been thanking him for doing that too. I think he was going to get your applause no matter what he did. Continuing on with the program, though, we'll continue on with, hello, Meta. Good evening. Welcome to the show. Are they going to impeach Trump now? Well, you got to win the midterms first. If the Democrats do a good job in the midterms, an impeachment is coming, yes. Hello, Meta. Good evening.
How's it going?
Okay, I'm going to ask you the same question I'm asking most of the callers. Do you believe we're actually in war right now?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think we're at war. Whenever 9/11 happened, for the longest time, they said it was an act of terrorists, right? An act of terror.
Yeah, but they also referred to it. They also referred to it as the war on terror as well.
Correct.
Okay.
So that was the loophole. That was a loophole. But United States declared we're at war on terror, which gave them the green light to do what they did.
What's the difference? What's the difference between a war and a war on terror?
I mean, right? I mean, that's a war on terror. So it's like they're going against the terror organization. They're not going against the country itself. Does that make sense? So
how do you know? But how do you have any proof of that? I mean, you say you're not going against.
Well, I mean, they Saddam. Say it again.
No, I'm just simply saying, how do you know when you say they're not going against the country? I mean, we could be at war with a nation and not be trying to bomb civilian targets.
Was the one that was screaming. The organizations were the one that was screaming. They claimed it, and and everything. Like Trump didn't do anything. Trump, for this particular situation, Trump didn't do anything until Iran started making threats against the United States. The bases, when it attacked the bases, things of that sort. Then he moved in.
Wait, hold on a second. Do you realize? Okay, Israel and Iran are trading shots at each other back and forth. During that time, America's letting Israel fire weapons at Iran, but when Iran fires defensive weapons at Israel, America's shooting those weapons down. They're providing the Israelis with all types of intelligence. They're turning off the GPS and they're over Iran. But we're going to hold Iran accountable. We're going to hold Iran accountable for making threats when America is actively doing all that.
So Israel is our ally. We don't have an ally with Iran.
You're shooting down their weapons.
Is that correct? Are we allies with Iran?
No.
Is Iran our ally?
No.
Okay, so yes, until we're supporting. We're not actively getting involved.
You're shooting. Wait, hold on.
Sorry.
You're shooting down their weapons. What do you mean you're not actively getting involved? You have ships on the coast of their country, literally shooting down their weapons, preventing them from defending themselves.
Where do you see reports saying that U.S. was shooting down the missiles?
All you got to do is Google it. That was being reported constantly when they were fighting.
You have access. Go ahead and Google it. See if you can pull something out.
I'll go keep talking. I'll Google it, but I can't believe you haven't heard that. But keep going.
Yeah, I haven't heard that first. So the big conflict is Iran having nuclear capabilities, right? Surpass the amount of civilian program.
Okay.
So that's the issue. That's the issue. And if that's the issue in that region, and the U.S. is the only one that has the capability of actually taking out that issue, then with zero casualties, and you're able to make that happen, then he made that happen. Now they don't have that threat. They don't have that that card to play, saying, "Oh, we have nuclear."
But I do want to get over to
nukes, things of that sort.
Okay. Now, this is my first time hearing this along with you, but I believe it's exactly what we're talking about. It's a quick clip. I'll play it, and we can discuss it on the other side.
But I do want to get over to Monica out at the White House. Monica, the control room telling me you got some new reporting.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. So we were just discussing a few minutes ago this new development of the U.S. aiding in shooting down some of these Iranian projectiles that have been targeting Israel. That's according to 3 U.S. officials. And my colleagues who cover the Pentagon, Courtney Cubey, reporting now also that the Pentagon did move a number of military assets into the region in recent days. Now, again, that's something that we see time and time again when you have a situation like the one that we are witnessing. But to give you a little bit more detail, that included some Navy destroyers to be positioned off the Israeli coast to help shoot down some of these missiles, again, like we're seeing right now, and then other aerial attacks that could be expected after the Israelis launched their initial attack.
That's 10 days ago. So they did it immediately. The minute the Iranians started firing back, defending themselves, America immediately started shooting down their missiles. So
they're our allies. So.
So in other words, we're involved in it. And it's one thing, because we got a lot of allies that get involved in stuff. We don't jump in everybody's war. We're actively helping them in this case. So you said that, you understood what Trump did because the Iranians were making threats. And I'm asking you, does it not make sense that they would make threats considering how much participation America was involved in?
Well,
They're preventing them from they're literally preventing them from defending themselves.
No. So you're saying that Iran is making threats to the U.S. because they couldn't actually harm Israel because we were shooting down.
No, you
intercepting.
No, you said that what happened to Iran needed to happen because they were making threats, and I said, after all of the things we were doing, doesn't it make sense why they were threatening us? I mean, we were actively preventing them from...
saying we didn't really move our military towards that region until the threats were starting being made against the U.S. bases.
No, this happened immediately. This is 10 days old. This happened immediately.
That's 10 days old, but the Iran and Israel thing has been going since the end of 2024.
What?
It's just
what are you talking about?
The conflict between those two have been going on since 2024.
Right.
But it's been ramped up in the last month or so.
So what are you saying? You're saying that before these two got into it, Iran was threatening to bomb U.S. bases?
Yeah, in the most recent days, yes. Yes, they were publicly going online saying that they were going to attack to America. Like you can look up those videos.
And that happened,
Those were
but
recent days.
in those recent days or before Israel launched any attacks on them at all.
Would say it one more time.
You said in recent days they threatened to bomb our bases. I'm asking you, are those recent days before Israel was attacking them? I don't know if my caller had a call or not, but I got to move it on. Apparently he dropped out. All right, we'll continue moving. Tap the screen, by the way. Like I said, you don't have to agree with the host. We don't block, ban, or censor any damn body because you got a difference of opinion. He's welcome back on the show anytime. Looking in the comments, somebody said he heard you. Well, it is what it is. Like I said, I do believe in letting the people speak, but I did want to hear his opinion on that, but apparently either he had a phone call or something. Tap the screen, get the likes on up to 50,000. Real quick looking in the comments. Trump said his base is poorly educated. I'm not going to get into that. Stick around. Sticks and stones break bones, but words never hurt. Who cares what they say? It's about what they do. It's an interesting point you just made there, Mr. I think this says trigger finger. Because isn't that what they say in regards to how the liberals feel about Trump? You're a snowflake. Don't pay attention to the tweets. Pay attention to what he does, not what he says. All of a sudden, but when Iran starts saying awful things, we decide it's okay to go to war. But when the liberals have an awful feeling towards Trump because of mean tweets, are you letting a few mean tweets get the best of you? It's interesting how that works, huh? It's interesting how that works. The liberals are soft when they let words cause them to react. But here we are admitting that America reacted solely based on words because Iran hasn't done anything to America directly. Exactly. Don't be a damn snowflake, says, I cannot read as well without the damn glasses on. But yeah, all the Democratic presidents and candidates before said all the Democratic presidents and candidates before said Iran would never get nuclear power, that there would be something done before. Yeah, we've been constantly saying that Iran, that's what you mean, not Iran, but Iran. They've been constantly saying that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. Obama was saying it too, but Obama obviously used diplomacy. He used diplomacy. He didn't use, force. George W. Bush did not use force on Iran, neither did Clinton. None of them decided to go in and bomb Iran. Neither did Joe Biden. They all used something else to try. Now keep in mind, we've been saying that Iran is, only days away from getting a nuclear weapon for about 20 years now. So this is why I mentioned this earlier, and I'll go to the next caller, but this is why I mentioned this earlier. How can we be certain that what Trump is saying about how they're so close is accurate when we've been claiming they're close for 20 years? Why not show some kind of evidence? Certainly with Tulsi Gabbard out there saying in March that they're not developing a nuclear weapon at all. So clearly our intelligence looks like its credibility is kind of shaky in my opinion. Maybe you guys see something different. Meanwhile, all the attention is diverted from Gaza, and that's true, Scott. That is absolutely true. I just saw, I follow a lot of YouTube sites. Democracy Now! Is one, and they showed a satellite photo. The Israelis have really destroyed the West Bank. I mean, they're going to keep it. They're going to own it. They're not trying to, get rid of Hamas or get rid of the. They're going to take that over and annex that as part of Israel. They showed some satellite photos of it. Just whole neighborhoods wiped out. This whole Trump talking about turning it into the Riviera of the Middle East. I don't know. Netanyahu hasn't talked that way. What Netanyahu is going to do is just settle on it, build homes and things like that, or whatever the case may be, and put Israelis on it. Just basically, the size of Israel is going to increase, period. If you look at the map for what is designated as Israel, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger. They're taking their land. They're not going to have it anymore. Let me go back to the box. His entire cabinet is full of plastic plates and cups. What the hell does that mean? Continuing on with the program, Arsha Fine. Good evening. Welcome to the program, Arsha. Are we at war? That's what we're asking. Behave yourself at Ace Man. Trump said his intelligence is wrong. Prove it, though. Well, and by the way, I have to ask this question. If Tulsi Gabbard, his intelligence director, is wrong, why the hell is she still his intelligence director? Why is she still there? Arsha Fine, good evening.
Oh, hi, Tim.
Hey.
It's been a minute. I've been on your wait list for like a week now. I feel like I finally got in the club. Anyway, it's all good. It's all
Sorry.
good. I get it. You're a busy man with a lot of people that want to talk, and that should be celebrated.
Well, it's
So
always
okay.
it's always a
Yeah.
pleasure talking to you. If I don't get to you every time, I do apologize, but it's always a pleasure
No,
talking to you.
I know. It's not because you don't love me. Anyway,
There you go.
so
Thank you.
what I was gonna say. Okay, I've been listening, and I have a lot of things. So I'm gonna go kind of like, and I'm gonna do it quick because I know we like to have.
Give me what you got.
Dialogue. So first off, the Iraq thing. Congress was given information along with the UN Security Council,
Okay.
which all people, including Democrats, who have obviously, it was fairly bipartisan to, go after Iraq and, go to war with two different nations. And as well as the Security Council. Obviously, we know now that some of that intel may not have been 100% factual. Neither here nor there. The difference, in my opinion, of what happened over the weekend, and again, it's the weekend. Congress is not in session over the weekend. No congressional body was informed. And that means, if you're a MAGA person and you like the it doesn't matter who we are, what team you're on. Your team, none of the people in Congress who we have elected were notified of this situation prior to it happening. That is different.
Well, the problem is, though, Arsha, apparently...
But wait, hold on. The other thing is, yes, it is a sovereign nation. Yes, we have more nuclear weapons than most other countries. But I always remember the one thing during one of President Obama's interviews is what keeps you up at night. The one country he didn't say was Iran. Do you remember the one he said?
No.
Pakistan. He said Pakistan.
Okay.
Because Pakistan and India have enough nukes to blow up that whole entire region. The good thing is they haven't done it. But he never once has he said Iran was like keeping me up at night. This has been a thing that's been happening since the Iran-Contra, which I kind of put in comments during the Reagan administration. We have not been friends with them.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we took out, I'm not saying we, but the United States government took out a actually very great leader who would have led Iran into democracy, and then they put in the Shah.
You talking about Soleimani?
Huh?
Who are you talking about? You're not talking about Soleimani, are you?
I'm talking about back in the 80s.
Oh,
early 70s.
oh.
70s, yeah. So, like, the reason why a lot of Iranians, a lot of Persians that I know that came and fled and sought asylum and refuge into the United States of America was because we removed, through military, and CIA intervention, a very great democratic leader, and we put in it is what it is today.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. This is where we are. But again, Iran has been the boogeyman
For a long time.
my entire life.
Yeah.
Just as much as probably Russia, right?
Well, but you gotta, but they were part of the whole reason that Reagan beat Carter, the Iranian, I mean, they have done some stuff.
No, I'm not disputing that. I'm not at all. My other point I wanted to say was what makes what we did as a government any different from what Russia's doing with, trying to, well, because
What do you mean?
Trump has actually said he's still considering regime change.
Yeah.
He said that as of today.
So then let me ask you, because you heard my other guest, let me ask you, do you believe what we did is an act of war?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got a lot of guests that are saying, I got a lot of MAGA, a lot of independents and Republicans saying otherwise.
It was an act towards war. We got to at least put it that way. Because, again, this happened on a Saturday night. We didn't have, Tulsi Gabbard. Again, are we going to believe our intelligence? Like, we can't have it both ways, right?
Well, we know that Trump, during the 2017 Super Bowl interview with Bill O'Reilly, when he was even questioning our intelligence back then in regards to Russia. I mean, when he became the president the first time, our intelligence was telling him things about Russia that he was disagreeing with back then. He's never really trusted our intelligence agencies.
I think we're at the point at this time in our lives as American citizens where we need to figure out how far we are willing to vote upon a government in the Middle East called Israel.